So you guys want to hear that truth about Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris is a phony who caters to whatever audience is in front of her. I don't know if you saw this, but earlier this week, look up the clip. She went down to Georgia and started talking with a fake Southern accent. I'm serious. Now, what the hell is that all about? Kamala Harris grew up in Canada. They don't talk like that in Vancouver or Quebec or wherever she came from. Doesn't matter. It's the same new liberal policies, but a different accent, whoever she's talking to. Now, on November 5th, she can go back to using her San Francisco accent because we are going to send her packing and we're going to elect Donald Trump President of the United States.
And he is defining her. He's saying she's the other, she's exotic, she's a foreigner, she's not like you, she's not a real American. That's what he just said to millions of people today. He is defining her. This was intentional.
I didn't hear him say she wasn't a real American.
Come on, Scott. Is she Indian? Is she black? She doesn't know what she is. She's changing.
And
she's
the
fake.
argument that
All
we're
of
hearing,
this is so
J.D. Vance
clear.
was responding to this tonight. He basically said, oh, she's a chameleon. She moves around in terms of her identity too much.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about another great example of how Republicans should take down the media when confronting them about Trump's comments on Kamala Harris's blackness. As we all know, Trump questioned Kamala Harris's blackness in the Lion's Den. In a room full of black people, Trump went in as the sole white man on stage with black women and dragged his scrotum all over them during that interview. Okay, everybody saw it. Even if you didn't like it, you respected it, right? People respected it. Now, here's what's happening, guys. The Trump campaign is playing 3D chess. They have wisely realized that over the past week, Kamala Harris has not received any interviews, right? Because Kamala Harris is not trying to answer any questions. Why is Kamala Harris not trying to answer any questions? Because she cannot have a policy conversation. She will fall apart under the slightest bit of pushback and questioning, and everybody knows that. Democrats and the mainstream liberal media, okay? So they are now colluding to protect Kamala. A part of protecting Kamala is redefining Kamala, okay? Making Kamala something that she's not. And all they have to do is just hold up this caricature of Kamala Harris for the next 100 days or so into the election, and hey, maybe she'll win, okay? And that is the game plan, right? I wouldn't be surprised that when Kamala Harris picks her VP pick, that she completely goes in the basement and her VP essentially does all the talking. At that point, we will finally hear about what Kamala Harris allegedly believes, except it won't come out of her mouth, right? It will be her VP leading the way, okay? This is what I think is going to happen. This is how much they're trying to protect her. She's already started flip-flopping on policies, but again, not because she has said it. It is because her campaign advisors and staffers are leaking it to the media that, hey, Kamala now supports fracking. She doesn't want to ban fracking. Kamala all of a sudden is tough on the border, right? She doesn't really want to ban private health care. All of these extreme positions that she has taken over the years. There's a massive effort from the mainstream liberal media and the Democrats and the Kamala campaign to redefine who she is, okay? And the Trump campaign realized that. Over the past week or so, there's been nothing but Kamala is great. She's amazing. The spotlight has been on her, okay? She's God's gift to earth. And the media was defining who Kamala is, right? Now, after Trump made those comments, the media has now turned to talking about Trump. And now Trump is defining who Kamala is because Trump is basically saying that Kamala's fake. Now the media is having a conversation about, well, is Kamala fake? And they are asking Republicans about these remarks that Trump made, and Republicans are taking advantage of the media attention now being on them to shift the conversation towards, yeah, Kamala's fake, and this is how it ties into her policy. This is why it's important when we talk about what we actually really should be talking about, which are the issues, something that the media refuses to talk about and something that the Kamala Harris campaign refuses to talk about, but yet the Trump campaign is essentially making them talk about it, or at the very least highlighting the issues by taking advantage of this media attention that they're now getting, because the media, they can't help themselves. They really want to now talk about Trump racist, Trump attacking a black woman, and Republicans are now using this as an opportunity to tell voters that, hey, this is what Kamala Harris believes. These are her radical policies, and she's going to flip-flop on the policies because she is fake, okay? She's whoever she needs to be to get your vote. So without further ado, I want to react to this interview of J.D. Vance taking down this CNN reporter, asking this question because, again, the media can't help themselves, and J.D. Vance is going to do exactly what all Republicans should be doing when confronted on this question.
I want to ask you about the former president's comments yesterday to the National Association of Black Journalists, where he said that Vice President Harris is, quote, all of a sudden black. As a father of 3 biracial children, did those comments give you pause at all?
They don't give me pause at all. Look, all he said is that Kamala Harris is a chameleon. She goes to Georgia 2 days ago. She was raised in Canada. She puts on a fake Southern accent. She is everything to everybody, and she pretends to be somebody different depending on which audience she's in front of. I think it's totally reasonable for the president to call that out, and that's all he did. I mean, look, she's running as a tough-on-crime prosecutor, even though she implemented open border policies. She's saying that she wants to support the police, yet she wanted to defund the police just 3 years ago. It's totally reasonable to call out the fact that she pretends to be somebody different depending on the audience she's talking to.
You used that word chameleon yesterday as well. You're someone who was an unabashed critic of the former president previously. Now you're his running mate. You're someone who have text messages out there now that say, I hate the police. Now yesterday you said, I back the blue. By your own standard, are you a chameleon?
Look, I criticized Donald Trump 10 years ago, and we've talked about it, and I've made a good argument to the American people about why I think he was a great president and why I think he deserves re-election. That's different than going to Georgia 2 days ago and putting on a fake Southern accent when you were raised in Canada. So I think it's totally reasonable to change your mind. Has Kamala Harris stood for a tough debate with you and explained why she wanted to ban fracking and now she doesn't, or why she wanted to defund the police and now she doesn't, or why she wanted to open the border but now she doesn't? It's reasonable to change your mind. It's not reasonable to run and hide from the media and not answer the American people's questions.
Wow. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is a genius strategy. This is 4D chess, whatever you want to call it. That's what's happening here, guys. Because again, the media was taking all of this attention and putting it on Kamala Harris. Again, not to question her, not to, actually have a conversation that they should be having with the American people, which is that, hey, this woman just got installed via coup. This is what she believes. Are you sure you want to vote for this? This is what an actual journalistic media would do, but because our media is not journalistic, it's just more propaganda more than anything, they're not doing that, right? So they've been basically running a propaganda campaign on behalf of the Kamala Harris campaign, right? So again, she's getting free advertising dollars basically from the mainstream liberal media. Okay, they haven't been critical of her at all. And again, a lot of people should have questions about why hasn't the media been critical of Kamala Harris, right? What are her policy positions? What does she believe? Those are reasonable questions. Now, a lot of people may ask the question of, well, isn't J.D. Vance just like Kamala Harris? And my answer to that question is that there's a difference between flip-flopping on whether or not you like somebody as a person versus flip-flopping on your whole life, okay? J.D. Vance flip-flopped on whether or not he liked Trump, just like a whole lot of people have flip-flopped on whether or not they like Trump. Nobody in the Republican Party liked Trump when he was running in 2015, 2016, and then after he won, guess what? They all love Trump, right? Allegedly, okay? But that's just politics. It is what it is. But when you talk about Kamala Harris, it's deeper than the standard fake politician. This woman, again, may have faked her whole life. Who knows, right? That's what we're talking about here. She's in George Santos territory. And this guy got kicked out of Congress for faking his life and his story, right? So I'm just saying the genius here is that Republicans are using this as an opportunity to not only define Kamala Harris, to redefine her from what the media has defined her, because now the media is having this conversation and they're shifting it towards policy. They're connecting it towards policy. They're saying, listen, if there's questions about whether or not she's faking her accent or she's faking her identity, then there should be questions about her flip-flopping on policy and whether or not she's sincere, because that's what she's going to do. Again, Republicans are getting ahead of the game. And that's the genius of this strategy, because they know that they not only are campaigning against Kamala, they're also campaigning against the media. So now they're essentially using the media against Kamala by forcing the media to cover Trump, because again, the media is so Trump deranged, anything that Trump says, especially when it comes to race or sex or something like that, they're going to cover Trump nonstop. They're going to be in Republicans' faces trying to get them to answer for something that Trump said. And all Republicans got to do is take that opportunity to now have the policy discussion. Notice how they haven't really been talking to Republicans over the past week. What has the media been talking about over the past week when it comes to Republicans? They've been talking about J.D. Vance, his childish cat lady comments. That, and if the Republicans are weird. Now, it's not about, well, are Republicans weird? Now it's about, is Kamala Harris fake? See what happened here, guys? And Republicans are now actually connecting this to Kamala Harris's policy positions. And that's the genius part about all this. Because again, now it's not talking about Kamala as the best thing since sliced bread anymore. And then they're trying to have a discussion about whether or not she's fake, right? And they're asking Republicans about it, and they're turning it into a policy discussion. Now they're questioning the media, why haven't you talked to Kamala about all of these things that are connected to our allegations that Kamala's fake, right? Why have you not talked about the policies and the issues with her? Why has she not answered any questions with you guys? I love it. Absolutely love it. And again, what I love the most about this is the same thing I love the most about the Tom Cotton interview with CNN, is that he's not apologizing, because you shouldn't have to apologize. You don't need to grovel and explain yourself. You need to go on offense. Offense, offense, offense. This is a great job.
He was also asked yesterday if you were ready to be president on day one. He kind of dodged the question. What do you still have to do as his running mate to prove to him that you are ready to step into that role?
Well, I think Donald Trump was answering a political question, and he was answering it correctly. He said for years that who the vice president is doesn't really matter politically. Most Americans are voting either for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump. They're not voting for the vice presidential nominee of either party. Look, I'm absolutely ready to be president on day one. I've been a businessman. I've been a United States Marine. I've been a senator. I can do the job, but politically, he's just right. People are voting for Donald Trump primarily.
So why are you out here today then if you aren't necessary to this process?
Well, I didn't say I wasn't necessary to the process. I can certainly make an argument that borders are Kamala Harris has failed the American people, but I think ultimately they're going to be voting either for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump.
Wow, that was a great job by J.D. Vance. Guys, I got to tell you, J.D. Vance is rubbing off on me. I know a lot of people are down on J.D. Vance, but the one thing I can say about J.D. Vance is that he has taken a lot of lashes over the past week. But one thing I can say about him is that he has stuck to his guns, right? He hasn't done any apologizing. He's done a lot of explaining, which I really don't like. But at the same time, I mean, he was being bombarded and he's getting his legs, right? And I think that he's getting a lot more comfortable. I think that he's finding himself. He's finding his lane. And I think that the way that he's handling these questions from the media, tough questions, is a masterclass, right? He connected everything back to the policies, right? So what Republicans are doing, or what the Trump campaign is doing more specifically, is that they are using the controversy of talking about Kamala's race to connect it back to policy and why it matters that Kamala Harris allegedly is flip-flopping on her race and what that means when it comes to the issues that actually matter. Again, it's a genius strategy, because what the media is trying to do is that they're trying to define Kamala Harris for the American people. And the Trump campaign realized that you can't just let the media do that. If this continued the way that it was going, yeah, it wasn't going to be good for the Trump campaign. So now they've kind of, again, reversed the attention. And now they're the ones that are trying to define Kamala Harris. And that's what we should be doing. So again, shout out to J.D. Vance, shout out to Tom Cotton, shout out to any Republican that holds their own in these interviews where they get confronted and they stick to the issues, right? They stick to turning it back around and talking about how Kamala Harris is terrible for this country. Because again, the media doesn't want to have that conversation, but you have to force them into that conversation. And it's very unfortunate that in the country that we live in, we have to force the media to talk about the things that actually really matter. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.